This is a series where people who've experienced surgeries or injuries that have affected their day-to-day lives share their experiences. We'll dive into their stories, talk about what they've endured, and see where they are now. My name is Saeed Hashimi, doctor of physical therapy and founder of StrengthWorks. I'm here today with Bob Albert, community activist who experienced an emergency cervical laminectomy affecting his arms and legs. So tell me a little bit about it, Bob. Tell me from the beginning. How did it all start? What happened?
Okay, it started in April of 2024 when, for a period of a couple of weeks, I had pain in my neck and headaches, backaches, and it culminated with a situation that occurred around April 12th of that year. My body temperature went from 98 to about 102 or 103 within a matter of several minutes. My wife rushed me to the emergency room at St. Francis Hospital in Roslyn, where I lost control of my arms and legs. The surgeon there did an MRI with contrast where he found that there was an infection in the cervical area of my spine, and really did a life-saving surgery within a couple of hours to save my life. At that point, the surgeon was unsure of what lay ahead, but he did tell my wife that I would need a lot of physical, occupational, and other forms of therapy. And after spending 3.5, 4 weeks in rehab in two hospitals, I was able to come home. But coming home was quite an experience ordeal because I came home without the ability to use my arms and legs and was unable for several months to get out of the bed without physical assistance. I had therapy at my home for a period of 2 or 3 months, and then I was able to do outpatient physical therapy and occupational therapy as well.
So it's been about 2 years since that point.
It's been 2 years, 3 months.
Yeah. You went from a point where you weren't really able to use your arms and legs.
No, not at all.
Where are you now?
My legs are 100% better. My arms are and my hands are maybe 80, 90% better. So I am pretty independent as far as my life goes. I have certain limitations. I can't drive a car, which was one of the things that, as a community activist, I had to be able to drive. So it made my activism change radically.
What were the initial talks when you first had the surgery and lost control of your arms and legs? What were the things that they were telling you that you were capable of, the expectations?
The surgeon did not give me any sort of hope of regaining my total independence. Obviously, at the age of 74, where that was the age I was at when I got my um, my health issue. I didn't know what the future held for me, and obviously my family as well.
Where were you mentally? Did you feel that it was over? Did you have hope?
I was very depressed. That much I can say, because I was active at that point all the time. I was able to walk, run around, do basically what I wanted to do, and obviously this affected my wife to the largest extent because she became my caregiver. And, when you get married, I don't think, and I've been married 47 years now, I don't think you go in with the idea that you're going to have to be the caregiver for your spouse.
Yeah. Well, there's this the saying, right? Through sickness, through health.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess we're going through that sickness, or you went through that sickness. So
Oh, yeah.
40 years is a long time, but I think that you guys have proven it to each other at this point from your comeback.
Oh, yeah.
How long was it from the point that you initially started to feel those symptoms to the point where you had that surgery?
Well, I got the surgery right away. The symptoms came very quickly. My life changed radically within a matter of hours. So it was an adjustment. When you go through something like this, you don't know where you'll be 4 months after that, or 6 months, or a year. You hope that you'll get some of your independence back. Without therapy, without the frequency of therapy, would I have been in this form of recovery? The answer is no, I wouldn't have.
In the beginning days, you have children and
I
your
have 2
spouse.
adult children. I have 4 grandchildren.
How was everyone's response, connection to that time? What was their motivating factors?
So
Did they help a
they
lot?
were so supportive from day one. My grandchildren, who were very young at the time, 7, 6, 5, 4, and 3, they treated me like I was grandpa.
And how was your spouse? His name is Denise. I
Yeah.
know her very well. How was her response? How did she manage in that beginning times?
She did everything. She was on the internet trying to figure out what she could do and what she could buy to make my recovery easier.
So you initially went through rehab services or clinics. How was the initial rehab? What did they have you doing?
Well, the problem was this, that I had an infection in the body as well. So my blood pressure was too low to actually do any physical therapy. I think my blood pressure at one time was like 85/60.
But when you got out and you went to the rehab center, what kind of activities did they have you doing if you were bedbound?
Obviously, there was very little they could do.
We need
They
some help.
could They could.
I think you need a little help over here.
All
Yeah,
right.
go ahead, hon.
Okay, when you went to first, you had help in the house. They came, they took you out of the
Oh
bed.
no,
You had
yeah.
physical
This is
therapy
when
in
I
the
came
house.
home.
You had yes, this is when you came home. You had physical therapy in the house. You had OT in the house,
Right.
and they worked with you out of the bed, getting in and out of
Oh
the
yeah.
bed. How to? We had poles in the house. We had a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah.
There was rehab like services from post
Surgery.
surgery.
No.
You went into rehab clinics.
Very little. Very
He went into
little.
one rehab, as Bob described. There was a problem because he couldn't really participate. He wasn't an active participant in the therapy because he was too weak and he had C. diff. C. diff is terrible. It is severe diarrhea that you cannot control. And you have to be isolated because it's contagious. So he was in a private room. Um, so he couldn't really work. And then we got transferred to another one, and the help was not great there. So we immediately came home, and that's when we hired wonderful people to work with us. And that's when the recovery started, probably in June of 2024.
Recovery started really once you got home. So after the rehab centers, after the hospital, everything was kind of more so just to stabilize you.
Yeah, I had two physical therapists. I had an occupational therapist, and about 6 months into the recovery, I had a myofascial release therapist who worked both and swimming, obviously. Any therapy we could get, we had.
That's when you came to me at that time, right?
That was, I think, June 17th.
Somewhere around that day, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
I think it was June 17th that I started outpatient therapy in a clinic, and obviously I was still in a wheelchair. So getting up, I needed really physical assistance to get out of a wheelchair.
Yeah, so at that time you weren't really walking. You
Oh,
were
no,
still
no,
chair bound
no,
ultimately.
no. I was not.
Mm-hmm.
Far from it.
Yeah. What kind of timeline would you give from the time you got home, you were bedbound and chair bound? How were you getting in and out of bed?
With two gentlemen that worked around the clock. I had 24 hours, 7 day a week.
You had a lift, something to get you in and out of bed.
I had a lift we had a Hoyer lift, but we didn't use that very long because I had two very strong men
Mm-hmm.
that could help me get out of bed.
Yeah, we'd classify that in physical therapy as 2 times max assist, where it took two people with maximal effort to ultimately get you moving and getting you up and doing things, which is pretty tough. You know, that's close to dependent, where you can't really do things on your
No,
own at
I
all.
was totally dependent
Yeah,
for everything.
yeah, yeah.
For feeding, for my average daily living skills, everything had to be done by somebody else.
So you are one of the rare cases, I would say, that go from fully dependent to back to being independent. And I think we had a conversation about this. I'm sure we've had some type of conversation about this. The faster things come in terms of your injuries,
Oh,
in
yeah.
terms of
I remember
difficulties.
that conversation perfectly.
Generally, things bounce back a little bit faster. But the scary thing is when it comes to nerves and nerve damage, which is what happens after, the incident that you had with the infection and the laminectomy. You never really know just how much you're going to get better. So I remember you asked me that question, I guess many times, how much better am I going to get? And the answer that I always gave to you and any patient that has some type of nerve complication is going to be no clue. Let's give it 2 or 3 weeks, do our best, and see how much change we make, and then we can measure the outlook from that point on. So thankfully, I'll never forget. Within the first few visits, through the help of all the support that you had outside of physical therapy, it's like seeing a different person walk through that door every single time. And there was a moment where I remember Denise showing me a video of you, standing up or practicing those
Oh,
things.
sure.
And then one day we tried that standing up, and boom, you got up there.
Yeah.
A lot of screaming,
Uh,
a lot of nerves, but you did it. Yeah, I remember
yeah.
that very clearly.
With every improvement, progress, in my mind, I said, well, what's next? I never said, oh, that's good enough. It was like, how do we go to step two? I remember going from the wheelchair to the walker, and I hated the walker with a passion. And I remember you saying once, well, if you don't like the walker, don't use it. And I walked into the clinic one day, and I thought you were going to have a heart attack because I walked in walking. I felt that my life was coming back. Um, and when it started coming back, I said, "Well, I got to work harder to get where I want to go." And that was something that my neurologist had told me in one of the sessions. He said he was crying when he saw me because it was now July of August of that year, and I was in a better wheelchair or less invasive wheelchair, and he couldn't believe when I stood up. And he said, if you train like an Olympic runner, you will make improvement. He gave me 90%. He said, I don't know if you're going to walk with a cane. I don't know if you're going to walk with a stick, but you will be able to, get better if you just work your butt off. And he was right. He was right. And I came back with one of my personal therapists, and we said, okay, well, we'll train like we're ready for the Olympics.
Yeah, the amount of effort that you're going to put in, you hope that you get the same amount back. And unfortunately, a lot of people, they're in a lot of positions that they just don't make that change. I would say
Or can't.
they just can't, no matter how hard you try. So I think it's a testament, the response of your neurologist. It's a testament to show you just how um, much of a miracle it was to see the changes that you've made and to bounce back the way that you've done it. What were the things that assisted you the most during that time? Be as specific as possible, through the psychological, the physical, and everything included.
Well, the psychological, which when you're become a quadriplegic, um, the acceptance of that, and I never accepted the fact that I was going to be a quad. And I had a MFR therapist who I'm still working with, but initially she worked on the mental and the psychological aspect of my disability. And what was helpful was that her spouse had become a paraplegic. So she knew firsthand how somebody that their life is radically adjusted can have a normal life as much as they can. I remember her on two occasions I was able to she did something that my I left my body.
You had an out of body
I had
experience.
two out of body experiences. I felt really good as far as our clinical relationship at that point. Physical therapy twice a week. I had it 4 times a week because I had a personal friend who was a physical therapist and really was the coordinator of all the care. I thank him every day for what he's been doing. He's a little older than you are. He went to school 20 years earlier, so his the modality of the physical therapy is a little different than the way you and I work clinically. And it was good that I had all this different modalities that was giving where I would pick and choose a little with every therapist I had. Obviously the pool, the aquatics, and my wife pushing me.
Now, who introduced you to the aquatic therapy?
One of the gentlemen that was working with me, who for 20 years had been working with people with ALS. So he kind of knew things that he wanted to try. And it was, trial and error a lot of times. We started in the pool with a lift, I guess it's a lift going into the water. And within a week or so, he said, that's done. So he got a life jacket that he adjusted. So then I was able to actually stand a little in the water, walk a little bit with the aid of that apparatus. It progressed from that to nothing except walking. Within several months, I was able to walk in the water and get in, get out of the water with help. And I'm still doing therapy in the water 4 or 5 times a week, either indoors or outdoors when the weather is nice, like today.
People who experience a laminectomy don't usually go off scotch-free. What kind of difficulties did you endure in the initial term? Things like pain, stiffness, along those lines.
I had my hands did not respond, and I had tingles in the hand. I was given medication for that, and the medication was making me more and more depressed. So after a short period of time, I was not no longer taking that, and a lot of physical therapy, lots and lots.
How about shoulder pain?
Oh
What
yeah,
kind of shoulder stiffness did you have?
I had stiffness in the shoulders, in the rotator cuff. I also had neck pain from where the incision was, because I had a 6-inch incision in the back of my neck. I still have some discomfort in the neck, especially late in the day if I've been doing a lot of, physical activities. Um, the
Was one side worse than the other?
No, not really, not really at
Well,
all.
that's not true. Now this is going to be me
Okay.
as your physical therapist. This is the thing. It's very hard to recollect things, as well as just to kind of see not only with your progress, but also how bad things can be from the inside, which is why it's so important to have people around you to try and assist with a lot of other things, but for you specifically with your recovery, because it's almost impossible for you to conceive how bad things got, how quickly it changed, as well as what is worse than the other. And your right shoulder was non-existent and in terrible pain, to the point where even I recommended to you to get Botox to ultimately paralyze the area so that it wasn't so guarded and locked up. There's different phases of nerve damage and nerve pain, which is something we've absolutely discussed, over the term, which is also another important thing, education, the things that you had to hear in order to understand what was going on. I think that was also a big factor.
I also went to a medical doctor who's
Or a physiatrist.
physiatrist, yeah, and I got shots in both of my shoulders, which opened up the area so that I was able to manipulate the shoulder better.
It reduced your pain by a lot. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was very good.
But you are right about that, because for probably a year, I was predominantly a lefty. And the first 4 years of my life, I was righty. So I learned to pick things up and feed myself with the left hand. And probably a year in, or a little over a year in, I was able to actually write my name with my right hand.
It was like 5 months in.
5 months ago. No, really, yeah.
I don't know the timeline. I don't recall.
Maybe as good as it looks today. Because I remember during treatment, you made me a card. I'll never forget that. I still have that card.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was a big deal. And then now seeing you write your name, very different.
Yeah.
So how were your legs?
It took my legs a while to come back. Being a soccer player, being a skier, and a walker, that was hard to understand. Once I started walking, it was like I can do anything. I would go out and walk with one of my therapists. We would go out on a Friday and walk 2 miles.
You can never explain to someone just how complicated and difficult walking is until you lose the ability. And then you try to do it again, and then you realize how nuanced it is. We really do take function for granted when we have it. And then it's only until we lose it that we realize just how important these things are.
I was in bed and I said, I want to get up. I want to get out of the bed. And my wife said, but you can't. You can't use your legs. So she said, do you want to go to the hospital? I said no, because I had been back to the hospital twice after the initial surgery. We called one of my personal therapists, who came at 1 o'clock in the morning, and he got me out of the bed and he put me in a reclining chair, which I slept for 4 or 5 hours, where he was sleeping on the couch, and I was sleeping on the recliner.
What was the drive for that?
I don't know. I can't tell you. Maybe I was just tired of being totally dependent, and I wanted some of that independence back.
It was in July.
That's 1 month after. Wow. Wow. 1 month after coming home. Yeah. Man, intense. So, speaking of which, setbacks. What kind of things did you experience? Did you ever have to go back to the hospital?
When I had the initial surgery, I believe I was about a little under 170 pounds. I did not sleep or eat for what, 5 weeks?
Yes, but the first time you went back is because you had the infection was bad. He was on an antibiotic orally. I'm sorry,
Pick line.
IV, a PIC line, and antibiotics making him really sick. So that's how he developed C. diff. So he went back to the hospital for the C. diff. We were there 3 days, 3 to 5 days, I think it was. They treated it. Thank God, when we got back to when we came home, they cut down the antibiotic a bit, so it eased up. But then the second time, Bob was in the hospital because he hadn't eaten or slept for at least, I don't know, 3, 4 weeks. He didn't want to eat anything. He didn't sleep, so he went a little crazy.
I lost 35 pounds in 5 weeks.
He was screaming, I want to get out of here, give me my medicine, give me this. He wasn't even on medicine. We called the ambulance and he went back to the hospital, and they almost gave him a spinal tap because they thought there was maybe something cognitively wrong, but there wasn't. It was just honestly from not eating and from lack of sleep. And then after that, that's why I say that recovery really started in June, because we kept back from the hospital. Must have been June 4th, and then everything was better.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I think nutrition was a big conversation that you would have with a lot of your team members ultimately at that time as well. You know, what you should be eating, supplements, these things. Did you find anything that was beneficial for you? You know, nerve building supplements, or, you know, was there any dietary changes that helped?
We had some supplements from a health food store. I can't remember the name, but they were like nerve building supplements. We took them for about, I want to say, 1.5 years. We don't take them anymore. Okay. They also, I believe, helped a lot with the tingles and the numbness, because most people experience that for a very long time. I feel like Bob had it for maybe 3 to 4 weeks.
The tingling and the numbness? Oh, it was way longer than that.
What was the medication
it was a
that
long
they
time.
gave me?
Gabapentin.
Gabapentin.
And
that, no, that was not good.
No. Yeah, no, I remember the tingling and the numbness.
It was also the tingling and the numbness, yes. The problem was, and that's why he couldn't use the walker, the sensitivity of the hands. Everything was freezing cold.
Oh, yeah, or burning hot. Yeah.
And we tried everything. A golf club, golf glove that we cut the fingers. What? Garden gloves, golf gloves, you name it, we tried it. It's like I was a guinea pig.
But then it went away. As fast as it came, it just went away.
Well, you know, I remember it was the walker that killed you the most, because of holding it. Your hands would, light on fire. You know, I think practicing it and doing it over and over again maybe desensitized maybe those new nerves that we're trying to build and create at the time. I think your consistency with the activity that you did throughout the week was important to you jumping back. But
I mean, I probably had therapy for 4 hours a day?
Oh yeah. It was a lot. Yeah, it was a lot. I think you were the only person that I have ever told back off, because no one really ever does absolutely enough, especially if you're coming from, it's like somewhat untrained to, injured. People think more so taking a step back is important with an injury, when in reality, you really have to take 10 steps forward. You took 100, but but it was good. I think, who knows, maybe that intensity and that volume of exercise and activity was also a big make for you, because
mentally, for sure.
Honestly, the reason there's so much therapy and massaging and all of that is something that the neurologist said.
Good. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And if you don't, he said you have your muscles, and if your muscles don't contact with your nerves, the nerves are going to die.
It is absolutely true. And even, for a healthy individual, you back off those nerve endings and the fibers that you create within the muscle. Yeah, they go backwards pretty quick. They go backwards very quickly, unfortunately. But the good thing is, if you develop a good base, it's very easy to jump back to where you once
Yeah.
were, you know?
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, that muscle memory term and so on. Took you some time, I think about a year in, to really be back up on your feet and doing normal things and ultimately feel like you've made a comeback. And you had a celebration afterwards.
Yes, I did. Just about a year later, 11 months.
Where are you now versus a year ago? Would you say that you've
Oh
improved?
yeah. I go out. I go out for a walk every morning by myself. Thank God for that.
Which was a big deal.
I don't need a shadow. To me, that's made all the difference.
Independence is everything.
I go and I've been hitting a golf ball. I hit it straight now, where I used to hook it or slice it. I hit it perfectly straight. I've been playing lacrosse with my grandson, who's a lacrosse player.
You won a
And
game of putt putt too, didn't you?
yes, I did. I went miniature golfing with my wife and one of my personal therapists, and that was about a year ago.
Yeah, sometime, maybe 6 months or something like that.
My question in my mind is, what will the next year be?
Yeah.
I know I told you that I had one finger on my right hand that was buckling every time I tried to open it, and I worked my hands every morning after breakfast for 30 to 35 minutes. I can shuffle a deck of cards now, which I never thought I'd be able to do. And if my OT saw me doing it now, she would have a heart attack because she had been trying for the longest time to get me to do certain things with my hands. The fact that I had such good therapy, I think, has been made all the difference.
All the credit goes to the person who endured it. Everybody gets what they get when they try to get some help in terms of therapy or therapists. I don't think that was the make or break for you. I think that it was the effort that you put in to getting there.
And we were in the Cayman Islands in February with the whole family because it was my wife's 70th. I saw my grandchildren jumping off the side of a boat to go snorkeling. And I said, my son, who's a very good swimmer, he was a lifeguard. I said, you know what? I'm going to jump in too. And I jumped in. And of course, I was able to swim around. When it came to getting back on the boat, I couldn't do it. He pushed me back into the boat. This coming Tuesday, we're going to Europe for 3 weeks. Uh, so that'll be a telltale sign of how far we've come as well. And I really don't put any restrictions on myself anymore.
It's amazing.
I mean, I do want to go back to doing what I love doing, and that's community work. It may take a different form, and I might have to rely on my partner to pick me up in the car. But, I think that's going to help me mentally see that I'm worth something again. And that's the hard thing when you get what I had, you feel absolutely helpless because A, you can't do anything on your own. You have to rely on people. And I remember early on saying, you know what, if I can make enough advancement progress, maybe I can go back to doing what I like. And, I did it for 25 years in various aspects of community work and mental health care and forensics. I did a whole bunch of different things, which I missed. And I remember saying to my partner who came to the house, when I first started standing on my own, I said, I don't want you coming back here until I can walk. Because I wanted that to be like a goal. And if you don't make goals for yourself, you're going to stay where you are.
Absolutely. Talked a lot about your experiences, what you've endured, how far you've come.
Yeah.
I guess my question here to you is, what would you tell someone who's going through it now, or maybe even if you can go back and speak to that time of Bob, what would you have liked to have heard? What would you want someone to know?
That it's going to be an expensive journey, because the way healthcare is in this country today, unless you got money, you don't get care. You know, Medicare, Medicaid, it only goes so far. If you don't have the support of your family, and obviously I had the support of my wife, my mother, I wouldn't be here either. That's just it. If I was a poor person in any of the poor neighborhoods that I've done advocacy work, you'd be in a wheelchair. And I thank God that I had the financial wherewithal to come back as far as I have.
Yeah. Well, it's a powerful message to end with.
Yep.
I appreciate the time, and again,
Yep.
thank you for letting me be a part of this miracle.
Oh, yeah.
It's been awesome. Any other last messages you'd like to give?
Yeah. If you need a physical therapist, you're the one to get it.
All right, appreciate that. All right. Well, we'll get Denise on here sometime because she's doing PT too. So that'll be one day. All right?
Yes,
All right,
sir.
well, thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Straight, hands up, hands up, hands up. There you go. There you go. Go. Good. The fire.
No help, no help. Good.
He did it, he walked, he did it by himself, that's it.
Great feelings.
There you go, he's swimming.
Look at that. Look at that with my right hand.
kid returns.